Emigree. This might not be on your top list of poems, probably because we did it this year, but it's a really rich poem, loads of good language stuff, and if it really helps, really good one for comparing to checking out my history. The big idea behind this poem is about the experiences of someone who's been exiled from their homeland. So there is a big focus on the importance of identity and the feelings of being separated from your homeland. These are really explored along with a sense of memory. So we have quite a few kind of key themes, all of which could potentially come up within the exam. As a quick summary of the poem then, it is about someone who left their homeland as a child. Now it's really important to talk about the speaker because Carol Ruman's born and bred in England. So it's not about her personal experiences, but more imagining of a character who has left their homeland and their kind of views and attitudes towards it. Vagueness is quite clear in this opening, a country, rather than anywhere specific. Her views, because she left it as a child, are all incredibly positive, and one of the most important techniques to talk about in this poem is the use of light imagery. So we can see this here, my memory of it as sunlight clear, and also this beautiful metaphor of bright filled paperweight. And the focus here is about light and beauty. She sees it as somewhere full of goodness, full of joy, which is very different from the way that it is perceived now. So light imagery, really good. There are lots of poems with that kind of imagery in it. Although she views it as beautiful, like we all view our holidays and childhood memories, the reality of it is quite clear. It may be at war, it may be sick with tyrants. We've got lovely language here because we have what we call parallelism. If I can squeeze that on there. Alright, so you can see that both clauses start with that same phrase. That's parallelism. It may be at war, it may be sick with tyrants. We've got a nice metaphor here of the tyrants being some kind of evil disease. A tyrant is someone who controls and dominates by power. And it's those people that are creating the sickness in her country. So it may be these things, it may be at war, it may be sick with tyrants, maybe implies she doesn't really want to believe it because she wants to remember those bright filled paperweights of her childhood. And she shows it here, but I am branded by an impression of sunlight. So all she can see when she looks back on her childhood is beauty and light. Although branded, there is a slight impression of pain there. Alright, which suggests a bit of negativity. We clearly have, though, a lovely juxtaposition between the reality and how she is remembering her country. There is a big sense of the distance in time that's taken between her being in her homeland, from when she left it as a child, and now, and really useful metaphor to talk about here as time rolls its tanks and the frontiers rise between us. And so we've again got images of war coming through here, so linking back to this quotation we had previously, it may be at war, it may be sick with tyrants, time rolls its tanks. So also some quite clear alliteration here. Maybe the time rolls its tanks, quite brutal, very much like what's going on in her country now, a sense of violence. Time rolls its tanks and the frontiers rise between us. This is about distance. She no longer feels that she can ever return to her country, that the distance between them is huge. And this is enforced here. I have no passport. There's no way back at all. But she remembers her country, and she remembers it almost as if it's either a child, I comb its hair and love its shining eyes, or even a lover, my city takes me dancing through the city of walls, and that sense of beauty and freedom that it gives her. This is a really interesting line because it can be interpreted in more than one way, which makes it great for getting high marks in the exam. They accuse me of absence. They circle me. They accuse me of being dark in their free city. Who is this mysterious they? And this is the ambiguity of the line. Is it where she lives now? And if it is, that gives a sense of her feeling like an outsider. Cannot write and hold an iPad at the same time. Or is it her home country? Does she feel like a traitor because she's abandoned them? So the ambiguity here makes it really interesting and open-ending. What is clear is that she feels a sense of isolation. They accuse me of absence. They circle me. They accuse me of being dark in their free city. There's a they versus me here. And whatever interpretation we go for, she certainly feels isolated now. My city hides behind me. They mutter death, and my shadow falls as evidence of sunlight. So even though she feels isolated and separate, she holds on to positivity, and right at the end we go back to that evidence of sunlight. She has to hold on to her positive memories. They are what keeps her going. They're what focus her identity, who she is. And so, although it might not be a poem that you particularly love, there are some really, really powerful and interesting images here that you can talk about in the exam. When we're looking at comparing this one, and we'll do this in another video, really, really good because we are talking about identity. Very, very good for comparing to checking out my history, and there will be a video on this. And you could possibly identify with kamikaze as well, and that whole sense of she feels exiled from her country. Kamikaze is kind of exiled from his family.